Caesar here. It took me quite a while to understand what I wanted to show my audience. I'm going to, although I don't have the best equipment available, I'm almost there. Going to show you a Gongfu tea ceremony as best I can. This is a yixing pot. It's a Chinese clay, and it absorbs flavors and smells of whatever it's used with. In this case, it will be Pu-erh tea, my favorite type of tea. And at the moment, I have just a little bit of my highest quality Pu-erh tea left. And I wanted to make it into an event. So pardon the water kettle sounds as it heats. It will be retaining the heat throughout the video. First, you add your boiling water to the tea. In the case of Pu-erh, simply to rinse it. It just takes a couple seconds. This is not yet the first infusion. This is used to wake the tea, as they say. It rinses off any sort of unwanted debris or dust that's collected. Because this particular tea is fermented. And that process takes a lot longer than other teas. It has time to collect unwanted things. And you have the option to rinse your teapot from the outside, and it also seasons it in a way. And I'm going to pour off the remainder, as with the amount in the cup. You can drink this, but it's not generally considered the best part. And it certainly isn't the first infusion, which comes with some sort of precedent. First infusion of this particular tea takes under 10 seconds. if I remember correctly. Only a few seconds more than the rinse, so it'll be about twice as long in this case. Luckily, this tea, unlike some Pu-erhs, can't really be oversteeped. I'm sure it can to some point, but I'm told, and I taste from having it many times before, that there aren't any tannins that you can get from it. That's a nice big pot. And it's pretty dark already. Means I really didn't need to infuse it that long. But, you know what? I like my tea pretty dark. That's a strong start. So the tea kept in this container, this pitcher, is ready to go. That's quite a lot, especially for these little teacups. My water kettle will go off occasionally to make sure that the water is kept at a specific temperature. I now work at a tea house, and I greatly enjoy it. I have I've had a confusing life. I'm smart enough and empathetic enough and sympathetic, I suppose, as well, to be interested in many, many subjects. But I'm also impatient and impetuous. So it took me, compared to some, quite a long time to figure out what I was really passionate about in life. I mean, I have general interests. I'm not without identity or opinion. But tea, for me, was by far my first real passion. And it wasn't just tea. It was this kind of fermented tea from China. Lo and behold, it's quite a popular, even by the time I first drank it, type of tea. I had no idea. All I knew is that when I bought this more quality-oriented item at the grocery store, that its description really got me. And it said that it had a lot of antioxidants, more than green tea, which green teas for a long time now been touted as one of the most antioxidant content of any tea. It's used as a staple of tea, really, quite possibly because they chose it, as many scientific studies. And so now we're finally getting empirical evidence of the health benefits of tea, which is really cool. So I bought it, and I took it home, and I tasted it, and I was smart enough to try it first without any sugar or milk or anything. I really wanted to see what they were raving about on the package. And when I first tasted it, it was as if I went into a past life. Now, let's pause a moment and not be too judgmental of what I just said. Let me tell you this much. I am not one to speak like this. I really, I don't really have any proof of any past life or future life. I wouldn't say without a doubt that we don't have these things, and these things don't happen either. But the feeling... I was entirely sober, by the way. So, you know it was real. The feeling when I drank this tea the first time was as if I re-found it. I found it again from a past life. It's like something snapped inside of me and said, I found you again. And it went down to my toes. I've never had a drink or something I've eaten. This sort of charge went from my mouth, where the warmth was, straight down to my toes, and straight back up again, to my whole body, to the top of my head. And I've been taught somewhat in ways of meditation, and used to follow Buddhism. But, well, admittedly, for a time there, I played with the idea in my head about past lives and future lives, and I tried to imagine it as hard as I could, because the community that I had of Buddhists was so interesting. But ever since then, many years ago, I've never really thought about past lives. I didn't really give it a second thought until I drank this tea. And you know, when I ascribed to Buddhism, it took time for me to be interested in such a notion, past and future lives. Oh, this tea is still hot. It's great. So to have that sort of reaction in myself immediately upon tasting something, feeling something like that was fantastic. I knew right then I had this powerful thought. I needed to stay with this tea. I said to myself, you need to follow this tea. I really did. And it's, I haven't left it since. I've learned a lot more about other teas through it. I have a whole appreciation for tea in general. How did I start drinking tea? Just in general? I was poor. I was a college student, and I was hanging with friends, and we didn't have anything to eat. And so we scraped up some tea bags that we had in the house. We started drinking them. So I was a little accepting of tea. But it wasn't until I drank Pu-erh that I felt like I had a kinship with it. It was part of me in a way. And it is part of me. It feels so good. Every time I drink it. Any Pu-erh of decent quality. And it's not hard to find bad quality. But I know the right people. And I've read the right things. I'm surrounded by good Pu-erh. So let's try another infusion. This one will be a little shorter. There's nothing wrong with the last one, but I was a little too patient. Maybe. This is my second oldest Yixing pot. And it was when I was a little more experienced in tea, and my palate was a bit more refined. You see, after I first drank that Pu-erh, I wanted to buy any Pu-erh, and I did. I found a pretty inexpensive Pu-erh. I bought a lot of it because I couldn't afford to buy the first one I had all the time, and I just wanted to drink it all the time. So I did. It wasn't near as good. I did that for over a year. And I've been upgrading ever since. And now, the Pu-erh I use at home is, I would define it as my end game. I use it in the tea that I intend to sell one day. And the only reason I can't is because I don't have enough money. So it's time to save, and I am. This is all I want to do. I want to share this tea. Well, not this exact tea. This is actually a different tea. But I want to share Pu-erh with others. And it's not even in this manner. This is for my home use. My home use only. end game Pu-erh, we'll call it, is not this one. I got this from a different local tea house. And it's very good. Wish I could buy it more often. And the Gongfu, the Gongfu ceremony, as it's called, in this manner of serving tea, is just what I do at home. I think eventually, if things really take off, then I can do this in a storefront too, some many years down the road. But what I want to do first is to share with others my drink that I've made with Pu-erh tea in it. And it's been 5 years since I first drank that excuse me. Since I first drank that taste of Pu-erh. And ever since then I've been using different Pu-erhs to try and combine them with other ingredients. Make it sweeter, and make it creamy and spicy. So I made a sort of chai. I make a couple nut milks at home with my beloved blender. I have just a couple pieces of kitchen equipment, which I never thought I'd be crazy about. Kitchen appliances. But this tea changed all that. This type of fermented tea. We only have a couple appliances that are end game, so to speak. And I want to get another yixing pot, because this still has a bit of the slightly lower quality Pu-erh soaked into it. And I always want to keep it. It's priceless to me still, but for the use of having friends over, and maybe future videos even, I'd like to use one that will soak in only my Pu-erh that I have ended up with, that I really, really, really like. Really love it. I'm so happy I found that company. But even for people who know they love Pu-erh tea above other teas. I mean, I love lots of teas now. It used to just be this, but I now really appreciate a good Japanese green tea, Chinese green, even some whites. And I thought they were a bit too subtle, but now I've been exposed to some higher quality stuff, and I am really taken aback. I love all sorts of tea now. I do love all sorts of tea, but Pu-erhs are still my favorite group of tea. So, what can you do, right? That's okay. It's helped me appreciate others, right? This type of tea is said to be really good for your, pretty much every tea is good for your digestion in some way or another, but this one in particular can soothe your stomach if you're having any problems. And I have a sensitive stomach at times. Nothing too horrible, but when my stomach doesn't feel so great, and then my head doesn't feel so great. And then I just feel horrible because I never really have headaches. Unless... I never really get dizzy unless I have a stomach ache for some reason. And then I just feel horrible because I'm not used to being dizzy. Maybe that's why I can feel ASMR, you know, I'm just sensitive all over. Hey, I'll take it. No take-backs here. I like feeling ASMR. I like doing it a little less. And I like being sensitive in general. I find it's a thing that guys, males in North America, it's not really a sought after attribute in general. I was never one for being super manly. I'm aggressive enough. I got all sorts of energy all the time. I'm too impatient. That beep seems so quiet when I'm not doing this video. Maybe I can tone it down. I'm no good at editing. I don't know a thing about it. I don't really try to. But I'll try this time. This video is important to me. And I want it to be pleasant for everyone. As many people as I can make it pleasant for. How about that? I'm making this stuff pretty strong. But like I said, you can't really oversteep it. This may look like a pretty small teapot, but it's really kind of hefty, and it carries, if you were ever part of a Gongfu tea ceremony and you're drinking Pu-erh, you don't really need much at one time. It's powerful tea. So this one's pretty big. I mean, I'm only filling it like a third of the way full, and then my pitcher's still super full. My next one will be about a third as big, maybe. These first few teapots, I really wanted to go big or go home. I wanted my money's worth. And I got it. But I didn't know I was going to keep upgrading tea. See, not only is the tea that you make in these teapots absorbed into it, and also it feeds back into further teas, but when you first get the teapot, it's not brown like this. I've made it this color. I've darkened it myself through a process that they call seasoning the teapot. And I know I used that word before, but the real seasoning of the teapot is that you boil it for hours in the tea that you want to use it with. And it sort of sets a precedent of quality, really. So there's, right now I'm tasting just a little bit of my old tea in here. And it doesn't ruin the experience. But if I were to have a new teapot, it would be, it would have absorbed less flavor by now, of course. course, so it'd be a little weaker, but it would taste a bit more clear. Something like that. The only trouble with loving this tea so much is being addicted to caffeine. And plus I work in a tea house now, so I can still moderate it, but I get more caffeine than the average person. I think probably maybe less than a coffee house. I'm really not a coffee guy. I have a very sensitive sense of smell as well. I'm sensitive all over the place. And that's what makes me a good tea taster and sort of cook when I get into it, even though I don't really cook too much. But why that matters insofar as tea, insofar as coffee, is that coffee is really acidic, whereas only some teas are acidic. And acids feed bacteria, acids and sugars. And I can't really have my coffee without sugar. So if you give me coffee, it's going to be a bacteria party. And that means bad breath. And I don't even like bad breath on myself. As soon as I smell it, it's not a good time for me. I don't like others' bad breath. I don't like bad smells. When I come home, one of my favorite things to do is to identify what people have done in the time that I was gone, just by smelling the air. I can oftentimes tell what people cooked, or what they were doing, or how little they've done, based on how it smells. So, once again, sensitive guy, and I like it that way. Wow, this tea is really going longer than I expected. I can, this type of tea in particular, this batch of Pu-erh in specific, I can do for, I'd say at least 15 infusions, probably more like 20, 25. I mean, you really get your money's worth. So you can actually just save it, and then have it later. Which is good, because I don't think I can have too much more right now. But, just wanted you guys to know that, this is what I do. This is what I live for now, more or less. I mean, I can live without it, but now I'm really living. I feel like I'm really getting to it. And when you find something and you feel like you've found it again, it's like you lost it for a while. Imagine it's almost like losing a loved one and then forgetting you lost them, yet still knowing in some part of your subconscious that something's missing, and then finally you find them again. And you want to build everything around it. I guess that's the best way I can describe it. So, and my tea ramblings. Till next time.